Hello, my name is Kai, and welcome to Actually Sensible Transfers, the series where I assess the squad, look for the current needs, and determine what the most sensible transfers actually are. This is for the summer before the 26-27 season, but before I get into it, it'd be great if you could like the video, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Twitter and Substack at The Counterpress. So to do this properly, we're going to have to go through a lot of different picks. So the first thing is, of course, Adam Wharton. I think Adam Wharton is the dream pick in midfield. He's one of many dream picks in midfield. He is a very balanced central midfielder. He's very good at distributing the ball from deep. He's very good at breaking lines. You can see that he has about 39 passes per 90 minutes and 80% pass completion rate. He's very involved in build-up. He delivers more than 2 dangerous passes per game and completes nearly 7 into the final third, showcasing this ability to progress the ball. He contributes a lot of tackles, over 2 interceptions per 90. He's able to press very well, and he overall has very solid dual numbers despite not being particularly mobile. And for somebody like Adam Wharton, it's pretty obvious what you're going to get. So I can take out Dom for a moment, or maybe I should take out Curtis. You're going to get a player who can put balls into the area. He's able to kind of do this deep progression, vaguely similar to Trent, although there are some differences. He's able to get forward and play the final pass, but he's also able to pick the ball up deep and immediately progress it into somebody like Florian Wirtz, who can then turn and pass it into someone like Alexander Isak. He's also able to drift wide into different positions to pass the ball outside of the block, which means he doesn't have to be tethered inside of the midfield. He can play as both a 6 and a deep 8. And with how direct Iraola's style of football tends to be, even though I think we're going to look for more control, somebody like Adam Wharton would be an incredible asset to have. But of course, the issue with someone like Adam Wharton is going to be the price. Of course, there was the gentleman's agreement of $60 million. We don't know how real that actually is. There's a chance that he's even more money. Is it going to be possible to get somebody like Adam Wharton? Remains to be seen. I do think out of the dream picks that I'm going to give you, it's important to look and understand that we should at least get one of these dream picks, if not 2. Just because something's a dream pick doesn't mean it's not sensible. It means it is sensible. It just might be very difficult to get the deal over the line for the price that we want it at. Sometimes the best player is the right player, and I think for midfield, with the amount of neglect that we've had, especially in the 6th position, maybe it is time to spend big on one of those players. So this is another one, Elliot Anderson. I think Anderson would be a perfect complement to somebody like Adam Wharton. He's a good blend of ball retention and defensive intensity. He averages about 38 passes per 90. He's effective in making that final pass in the final third. He has great progressive stats in both passing, dribbling, carrying, very good numbers. He's able to recover possession very well. He has a lot of pressures per match, a lot of tackles in this Forest team. He's one of their few standout performers. And what someone like Elliot Anderson offers you is he's an actual 6. So if you had a pivot of a Wharton and an Anderson, Anderson is able to cover a lot of ground. He's able to pick the ball up from deep and act as the first receiver, which means somebody like Wharton or Dom or Curtis could act as the second receiver, immediately getting the ball to then orchestrate it forward into someone like Wirtz. You create this nice pattern of, progression centrally that ultimately leads to Isak getting the ball. He's, again, able to cover a lot of ground. He's a progressor in his own right. He's able to bomb forward if he needs to. He offers just a lot of coverage. He's very similar to Bruno Guimaraes in that way, which is kind of ironic that Newcastle ended up, of course, having to sell Elliot Anderson due to PSR. But yes, he's an incredible all-around midfielder. He would be perfect to have. He can play both as a 6 and as a box-to-box 8 versus Wharton, who can play as sort of a deep-lying playmaking 6 or a deep playmaking 8. So Anderson has this level of versatility as well, and an Anderson-Wharton pivot would be ideal, maybe the perfect pivot that we could get. But of course, the issue with Elliot Anderson is there are teams like Man City already in for him who are bidding a lot of money, maybe north of 120 million euros, so it's probably not a sensible pick, but imagine a Wharton-Anderson midfield. The last dream pick is Alex Scott. Some people might think this is very realistic, that we could get Alex Scott, but we've been hearing rumors of his contract situation with Bournemouth and how he might sign a new deal with a release clause. I don't imagine that release clause being less than 80 million. Is that sensible? But of course, Alex Scott, very creative central midfielder. He can play as a 6, as an 8, as a 10. We saw him play as a 10 more for Bristol, and then he sort of slowly developed into this deep 8/6, depending on what role he's playing, if Tyler Adams is playing or Ryan Christie. He's able to do pretty much everything that you want. He's very similar to Anderson in this way, but I'd say he's a much more of a silky footballer. He's much more cleaner in terms of his technique. I think when you watch somebody like Alex Scott, you can pretty much see the fit. Alex Scott's able to pick up the ball from deep, progress into someone like Jones, rotate around. If there's players who are pressing, Alex is very good at passing the ball, rotating around, getting it again, and immediately progressing. He's very much a pass and move style player. He's very Spanish in that way. I think people compare Adam Wharton and Elliot Anderson to that sort of ilk of, because they're a good progressor of the ball and look clean on it, that they must be sort of like Spanish midfielders. I think Scott is much more like that. He's an absolute Swiss Army knife in midfield. I think if you could have a midfield where your options in the pivot are Anderson, Wharton, and Scott, you're basically unplayable. And I think if you had them somehow in a midfield 3, you'd be even more unplayable. I mean, imagine a team that could somehow functionally have this midfield. I don't know, maybe Florian Wirtz on the left. I mean, it would be incredible. But again, very pie in the sky. I think realistically, you can't be sort of hoping that you're going to get these types of players, and that's also what makes it not sensible. But again, a dream pick. If you had a team like that, you would be completely unplayable. So now, I mean, we have to keep going and trying to be more realistic. Mateus Fernandez, another player who's been touted around. West Ham won a lot of money for him despite going down. Again, he's probably West Ham's best player last season. Bowen maybe on a similar level, but I think for the level of control that Mateus Fernandez gives you, it's completely irreplaceable in their squad. Again, great duelist, great passer. He has a lot of the traits that Elliot Anderson has, some of the traits that Alex Scott has. He's able to break lines a bit like Adam Wharton does. He's able to dribble and carry. He's always pressuring. He's always tackling. He covers so much ground. Very intense midfielder. I could see him playing for Portugal eventually. Again, if I was designing this Portuguese midfield, I actually would have gone with Bruno Fernandes false 9, Bernardo Silva on the right, Pedro Neto or Leao on the left, and a midfield 3 of him, João Neves, and because how do you beat that team, you know? But the issue with Mateus Fernandez, even though, of course, he can do a bit of what Adam Wharton can do, he can do a bit of what Alex Scott does, he can do a bit of what Elliot Anderson does, he's also expensive, he's not homegrown, so it doesn't really justify the price point as much, and there's a lot of competition as well for Mateus Fernandez. So, again, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But it is great to see his progression from sort of this right winger at times for Southampton into this deep midfielder who's able to occupy these zones as well as progress the ball forward and be involved with attack. Again, another Swiss Army knife player if you wanted to, like Alex Scott, can pick up the ball from deep and cover ground like Elliot Anderson, and can ping balls in behind the back line like Adam Wharton. So again, we need to be more realistic. Eduardo Camavinga maybe offers the ability to play left back and in midfield. He can play as the 8, the 6, or the left back. Again, very versatile, established midfielder. He's able to control games. He's able to be physical, cover ground, high passing volume, 59 passes per 90% accuracy is very good. High volume of progressive passes into dangerous areas. He can carry the ball very well. We've seen him do it, albeit from left back or centrally, where he's able to pick up the ball from deep, ride multiple challenges even when getting pressed, and continue to progress the ball in order to get like a cutback to a winger. Very effective. Of course, he's able to play in midfield. He can kind of play like Ruud Gullit everywhere. He can go up and down the lines, very box to box, but can also pick up the ball from deep and control games, can drift out wide. He offers this unique ability to form the back 3 with Virgil central, which I think is something that I want to do, but is going to be very hard to do at times because, you know, a lot of the time we're going to have a right footer who is either going to split the center backs and drift Virgil to the left or go to the right and put Xhaka central. So I think Camavinga offers a lot of uniqueness in that way, but of course the big question marks are he's injury prone, and are Real going to sell? Is he going to be affordable? These are the types of questions, too much uncertainty to make it really a sensible transfer. So, similarly, I think someone who profiles similarly to is Mamadou Sangare, because he's also left footed. He could do the same role. He is a bit similar to Lamine Camara as well. He's able to play multiple roles in midfield. I think, again, he's a 6 or an 8, depending on how you use him. He mixes this sort of progressive and final third passes with decent carrying ability. Again, constantly moving off the ball. He breaks up play very well. He can move possession forward and the play forward by passing or by carrying if he needs to. He can be box to box. He can also dictate. He would be very affordable. The issue I have with somebody like Mamadou Sangare, even though I think in a normal world I would actually put him as my sensible transfer, is that I have question marks over spending maybe the amount of money that they would want for him. But the hype around Sangare is building and building. I think there's a high chance that a lot of different teams will be in for him. I also think it's difficult maybe to justify spending that amount of money on a player who's only really been proven for about one season. We also don't know to what extent it's been Pierre Sage who's been the one to get the most out of Sangare. The back three that they tend to play also concerns me. I don't know if that's covering up deficiencies. He isn't as good of a progressor of the ball as maybe I would want in a Iraola midfield. I think he'll definitely cope physically, but I don't know how well he's going to cope in this sort of like passing sense and the progression sense, even though he is a good progressor. And I would actually be happy if we did sign Sangare for a decent price, but I just, for some reason, have this feeling that it isn't going to happen. So another option is that we can start looking younger. We can look at players like Ayoub Boadi, who are coming up through the ranks. Somebody, again, who can play as both a 6 and as an 8. I think this versatility is useful, and I also think that there are just a lot of 6-8 hybrids right now on the market. So because of that, I just keep thinking about having those types of players. Again, elite progressor. He's able to complete 39 passes per 90 at 90% completion. He rarely loses the ball. He attempts a lot of dangerous passes per game. He dribbles and carries well. Strong defensive numbers. Retains the ball well. The big questions are, how expensive is he going to be? Is he ready? I mean, he's a very young player. I know he's a massive talent. He's declared for Morocco. I know he can do this box-to-box role and dictate from deep, pick up the ball from the center back's cover ground. And of course, he shows a level of intelligent positioning that's much beyond his years, but is it going to translate well to the Prem? Is he proven enough? Is he going to be trusted by someone like Andoni Iraola? I would say yes, but I also think that some people like Michael Edwards might be a bit skeptical of signing a player this young and giving him such a high level of responsibility to be the starter in the pivot. Which is why I don't think, we're going to look at younger players. And by younger, I mean, sub 20-year-old players, really. Being 18, I mean, I just don't really see the world in which we go for him as the starter. I mean, if there's a chance that he's maybe a depth piece that we're looking to add. But again, is that justifiable? On a similar front with young players, we can look at someone like Ibrahim Maza, who can play, again, across the midfield. He could play deep. He could play as the 10. He could even play on the wing. He attempts a lot of passes per 90. Great progression. He has a lot of attacking value from dribbling, like 3 dribbles per game. Again, incredible. You can sort of see that I'm looking for a lot of players with very similar traits. He's very technical. He's great at linking up play, which is kind of unique. He's very similar to Alex Scott in that way, where he's just a link-up specialist. He can pass and move. He has a great engine on him, but again, he just signed for Leverkusen. He's still very young. He's still very unproven. It's difficult to see, again, somebody like Edwards going for a player like this for the price point that he would probably have because of how well known he is with only one season of true production. So, 2 years in a row, my sensible pick is Lamine Camara. I think he covers all the boxes that we need in midfield because he could play as the 6 or the 8. He doesn't necessarily need to be a starter, even though he probably will be one. He can progress through the thirds. He covers a lot of ground. He can play as a 6. He can play as the 8. He can attack. He can play as the 10. Kamara is also able to make these late runs into the box, which I think will be really useful from one of the players because we need somebody to mirror. And if it is Dom who's mirroring Verts on the right when we progress forward, right, with Dom sort of playing this Alex Scott role, Lamine is very capable of covering ground here. He's very capable of being cover. He doesn't immediately displace somebody like Curtis Jones or Trey and Yoni because, again, Kamara is so versatile that he could play multiple positions so that those players can still get minutes. He would be very attainable. I think it's us versus Newcastle in a race for him, and we easily beat Newcastle to the types of players that they want. Again, he'd be affordable. Gone are the days where Monaco is trying to rip people off. The only real issue with Lamine Kamara is that he's like 5'8", but we've seen players like Noah Siddiqui, who have a great engine and physicality like Kamara, come into the league and dominate, so I definitely think Kamara could look past that type of issue. He has pretty much everything you'd want from an Iraola midfielder, while also being affordable, all action, 6'8", complete midfielder. I mean, he's the closest to a modern day Lothar Matthäus that you can find. Of course, not in terms of the height, but in terms of his ability. But I think crucially, it's important to recognize that we shouldn't just be looking for one in midfield. I think we need someone who's also going to operate as an endo replacement, who can do the deep progression. But if we're looking for another player, it has to be someone much more affordable, who we know can fit the system. And for me, that's going to be Leon Abdallahu. He is a Kosovan defensive midfielder who plays for Christian Ilzer's bombastic Hoffenheim side, who qualified for the Champions League. He can either play at the base of midfield or as a deep 8. He's very similar to Adam Morton. He effectively operates the same way, except with a right foot instead of a left foot. And I think that also fits the squad better because before, the issues that I've been having with trying to fit somebody like Adam Morton into our team is that it would require Dom to play on the left. And even though I like when Dom plays on the left, for the right player is effectively going to be mirroring Florian Wirtz. So in order to use Wharton correctly, you would have to have Wirtz go on the right, which he can do, but I think this is just suboptimal. And I think if you have somebody like Abdallahu, it allows Dom to take up this position. He can drop in between the center backs if he needs to. He can progress play up forward. He can carry the ball well. Again, incredible deep-lying playmaking midfielder. Of course, he has a low sample size as well, but Ilzer's team play very high-intensity pressing football where the midfield tends to be very tight centrally, like how Iraola's midfield is very tight centrally with wide fullbacks, very similar style of build-up, very similar style of pressing, intensity. He has to tackle, he has to press, he has to mostly progressive pass. He doesn't really focus on dribbling. Sometimes he carries, but he's not really dribbling through pressure. Very much a true progressor. He'd be a very useful option because you wouldn't expect to start either, which means that if you need him in certain games, you can just bring him on. You can rotate him in. He, again, doesn't displace the likes of Curtis Jones, maintains a pathway for Trey and Yoni, Hayden Murray home, and would be very affordable. Very valuable metronome in midfield, and a good profile replacement for somebody like Adam Wharton. So we don't have to spend that level of money. Because ultimately, as you can see from the squad, we have a lot of different things that we already need to do. So having somebody like that in our squad makes it much easier. So we're looking at right back. So the first category I thought of was people keep linking us to Marco Palestra. The benefits of having somebody like Palestra is he's two-way, he's known for making forward runs, he's a very aggressive wingback, he contributes a lot of passes per 90, he beats opponents down the flank, he's able to kind of act as a winger in the final third, which I think is incredibly useful. He's able to just bomb on and occupy this space. But again, I had this issue with attacking wingbacks here where I think our right winger is going to end up being one of the wide players. And of course, Iraola likes double width, so this isn't that much of an issue. But I do worry that these guys are going to get too occupied in the same zones, and we need someone who can overlap, but maybe not someone who just overlaps. It might be a bit too aggressive on that front, and also Palestra is more likely to go to Inter. So if you wanted someone who's a bit more sensible for that type of profile, you might go for Vanderson, right? Vanderson plays for Monaco. He does a similar thing. He's very exciting, a lot of passes per game, dangerous passes. He offers more than just trying to beat his man on the outside, and the way that Palestra will, Vanderson will also attempt to make passes into the final third. He's able to pass from these positions while also being able to beat his man on the outside and get crosses into the box for somebody like Alexander Isak or Florian Wirtz to get on the end of. But again, there are a lot of question marks over his physicality if he could translate to the Prem. And of a similar ilk, we can talk about somebody like Wesley França, who I think Liverpool have been linked to in the past as well. He does a similar role, a very aggressive attacking fullback. I think he got injured for Brazil recently, which is a shame. They're going to maybe play Ederson, the midfielder, as a right back. That'll be interesting to see. But Wesley, again, very similar to Vanderson, attacking fullback who is able to beat a man on the outside, very aggressive, good at staying wide, offers this double width that Iraola might want. But my fundamental issue with all of these guys is that they're far too attacking. I think Iraola, if you look at Alex Jimenez, Jimenez was so much more. He acted like a midfielder at times. He would somewhat invert. He could control the game a bit from deep. So, with that in mind, I immediately thought of somebody like Hector Fort for Barca, who, of course, has been out on loan at Elche this season, who's able to tuck inside. He's able to pass from deep. He can be an inverted fullback and act as a midfielder in possession. And the benefit of having somebody like that, let me just get rid of Wesley here and put Fort in. He could invert into this position and allow somebody like Dom to occupy this position, which sort of gets us the front five that we want of these two attacking style midfielders, a striker and wingers. Fort can hold down the fort. He can control very well. He allows Kirkez to bomb on while he tucks inside. But would Barca be willing to sell? And is he ready for this step up? So then you might think there's an obvious Premier League alternative, which is, of course, Archie Gray. Archie Gray is a midfielder by trade, but his best season in his career was for Leeds, where he played at right back and inverted. He, again, creates a lot of passes. He's already proven. He's homegrown. Of course, he'd probably be more expensive than Fort. It's difficult. It depends on whether or not Barca intend to use Fort. But when I'm looking at somebody like Archie Gray, he can do the same thing as Hector Fort, Prem proven. But again, young. Are we going to give that level of responsibility to someone like Archie Gray? Of course, I'd love to sign him. Is he going to be affordable? Is he part of De Zerbi's plans? I mean, Spurs are already moving crazy in the market, signing Sin and Robbo on freeze. Difficult. Maybe he's going to use Jed Spence, and there will be an opportunity to get Gray, but I think with Basuma leaving, Bentancur might leave. I think they might end up trying to keep a hold of Archie Gray. It might be too difficult to sign him, and there aren't any other inverted fullbacks who, are like midfielders by trade, who I kind of want in this market. So that makes me think maybe we go for a more traditional fullback. So an obvious candidate for me is someone like Martin Fernandez, who plays for Porto, backup to Alberto Costa. Very good, but somebody like Martin Fernandez, again, a bit too young, a bit too unproven. He's not somebody that Edwards is likely to go for. So then maybe Givato Reed, another player who's been talked about a lot. Dutch, plays for Feyenoord, but he's injury prone. Can he make the step up? He's tall enough, he crosses the ball well, he's very two-way. He could sort of be your Nuno Mendes for the right-hand side, but he's not proven enough. The hamstring injuries are a big worry to me. There are a lot of teams in for him. His price might be inflated for a player who plays again in the Eredivisie. So, again, I don't see him as somebody that we would go for. So then the name that's been touted a lot by people online is Michael Quixote. Quixote is very good. I think people underrate how good of a footballer he is. I think too many people kind of see him as a long throw merchant or as like a guy who can't really progress the ball, but he can defend very well. I think that's a bit of a mischaracterization of him. 38 passes per game is pretty good. Over 2 dangerous passes from fullback, I think, is good. He's able to, of course, tackle and cover ground well. He could easily do this role that Jimenez did where he's building up through the thirds and he's very defensive. He's able to read play well, maintain positioning very well. He's able to make these overlapping runs when he needs to. But I think he would be my dream pick almost for this position. But the only reason I hazard this is I think he's just going to be far too expensive. And again, we have so much to do this summer, and a lot of signs are pointing to us going back to a net spend strategy. Just doesn't make sense for us to have a massive outlay from 50 million or more on somebody like Quixote when we have so many issues. It's similar to the Jude Bellingham scenario where we didn't get Jude and instead went for more midfielders like Dom, Ryan, Endo, and McAllister. So I think we actually won't go for someone like that. So instead, I want to look for somebody who kind of does what Archie Gray does and what Hector Fort do in terms of build up, while also having the defensive stability and overlapping ability of Quixote. So an option for me was the starter over Martin Fernandez, Alberto Costa. He used to be at Juve. He's good defensively, but ultimately I've seen him at Juve, and even though he looks like he has good statistics this season for Porto, I'm not buying it. I don't think he's had that level of development leap in the past year. So my sensible pick for right back is Gala Doué, the older brother of Desiree Doué, who actually represents the Ivory Coast instead of France. Gala Doué does. So he's very good. He's a highly controlled fullback. He is able to play so many different roles in possession. This is the main reason I wanted him and why I thought he was a sensible transfer. I know he's at Strasbourg, so there's a chance the deal might be difficult, but Doué is able to play as an auxiliary center back, so he can play into three. He can invert, which means it allows someone like Dom to go forward. And we've seen him overlap and arrive to cross the ball in. We've also seen him underlap, which I think is really useful in order to get on the end of things and try to score goals. He's so versatile, Gala Doué. He can pretty much play every role. He also is upgradable potentially. Like if it doesn't work out after a few years, you could sign a player and turn him into a Joe Gomez style player who can play multiple positions. He's able to complete more than 55 passes per match, 90% completion. He'd be perfect for the Jimenez role. I think Andoni Iraola would love him. He has great defensive stats because he sort of operates like an auxiliary center back. He reads play and maintains positioning so well, similar to Coyote, with still top level athleticism and even better passing quality. He can operate as an auxiliary midfielder. He can be an overlapping fullback. He can be an underlapper. Because of the sheer number of roles he can play, I think he would be a perfect right back for Iraola and perfect balance to Kirkez on the other side, because he'll just allow Kirkez to fly either on the outside or the inside as much as he wants, which I think is incredibly beneficial and worth its weight in gold in the modern sport. So center back. The reason I wanted to talk about this is in this video, I'm not really looking at all of the potential backups. I'm just looking at the bare minimum that we sort of need after we sell some of the players we expect to sell, like Alexis, of course, Ibu, Andy, and Mo have all left on freeze. We're going to lose someone like Alexis McAllister. We might lose Curtis. So I'm kind of been looking to make up numbers and sign players who fit Iraola's system without breaking the bank. So the first thing is, are we approaching getting a center back with maybe a Ibu replacement? If we need an Ibu replacement, the obvious dream pick is Maxence Lacroix. He's, I think, going to even start for France over Ibu. He wants to leave Crystal Palace. I think he'll be available for around 40 million. And I imagine he doesn't even want wages as high as what Ibu was demanding. And of course, so far we've been operating under the assumption that Jeremy Jacquet is going to play. But if it's Maxence Lacroix, he does pretty much what Ibu does. I think he's maybe a bit better on the ball. He's a bit worse of a channel defender, but he's also faster than Ibu. He's taken leaps in his development. He's had great progression. I've known about him since Wolfsburg, where he was this aggressive channel defender who would put in these really hard tackles on players to win the ball. He's kind of become a bit more measured at Palace, but I do think he's going to be prone in a very, like, in a less compact team. Palace play a very compact style of football. I think in a less compact team, we're going to see a bit more of the erratic Wolfsburg behavior again. And I think it's going to lead to similar bozo moments we've seen from somebody like Ibu. And even though I love Lacroix, and I think he would still be a great option as someone who could rotate with Jeremy Jacquet, and he would be a dream channel defender pick, I think it's just not logical to spend the kind of money and wages that you would need for someone like Lacroix without him really being this sort of guaranteed starter. But of course, he wins the ball in the air. He's a great duelist. we'd be lucky to have a player like him. But I think my true dream pick is Ilya Zabarny. So with his experience, of course, under Iraola, he would already be a great fit. He can operate as a channel defender. He's even better on the ball. He's a natural leader, which I think is massive for the squad. But of course, the biggest question would be: is PSG, even though they haven't really been playing him as much as they should be, are they just going to part with their big center back signing from last season after only one season? I doubt it, but I would immediately sign Ilya Zabarny. He would start over Jeremy Jacquet. He wouldn't necessarily block the pathway of some of the other center backs because Virgil will leave inevitably and would be a great player. But again, maybe they won't sell. If not, we can look at someone like Ousmane Diomande. A lot of benefits of signing somebody like Diomande. He's able to play as the central center back, but he's also a right footer who can play on the left, so it gives you automatic Virgil cover. Of course, the immediate question is the jump from Sporting to starting center back at Liverpool too big? But look, he's able to win the ball in the air. He's a great defender. He's able to do well in possession, albeit there's more space in the Portuguese league. Very strong physically. But again, I think the jump is going to be too big for a player like him for the price that he'd probably be. Because I think he'd be around 50 million. I don't think we sanction that big of a purchase for a center back who doesn't play in the top 5 leagues at an elite level, who I think a lot of other teams have passed up on for some reason. They keep passing up on Ousmane Diomande. So again, I think it's going to be similar now. So my obvious idea for a channel defender, if we needed to have one, would be Joel Ordonez. I've been beating this drum for years now. I love Joel Ordonez. He's fast. Of course, he's raw. He sometimes makes these over-aggressive tackles, but again, I don't think he would cost you more than 25, 30 million. Again, not in the top 5 leagues, but doesn't block the pathway of anybody. Swiss Army knife of just a channel defender. You can put him in those types of games where you're very physical. He's very similar to Ibu. He, of course, has a bit better of a passing range, and he's a bit better of a carrier slash dribbler than Ibu is, while, of course, being worse overall because he's younger, he's much more raw, he's a bit more rash in his tackling, and also he's a bit shorter, but he would probably be my pick. I think he might be the starting right back for Ecuador during the World Cup, but he would be my sensible pick if we were going for a channel defender, but I've sort of decided that I don't think we're going to look for somebody to start over Jeremy Jacquet. I'm starting to feel as though he is going to be the starter. Leone is going to rotate. Joe Gomez might be a versatile defender. So instead, maybe we should be looking to manage Virgil's minutes more. The obvious pick would be Luka Vuskovic because he has insane aerial numbers. He is a right footer who is comfortable on the left. His passing is incredible. He's not very fast. I think people sort of disregard that a bit when they start rating him. They don't kind of realize that he's not really the quickest. But of course, he can cover Van Dijk, which is really important. He's young. He'll probably develop into maybe the best center back in the world. Very high potential, but I think Spurs are probably not going to sell. I don't think they have an incentive to sell. I think they might look for a center back line. So it's going to be pretty difficult to displace him from Spurs and makes it a very pie in the sky, unsensible transfer. So another player who's similar to Virgil is Samson Baidu. Again, very attainable from Lyon. I think we could easily get him. Very athletic. He's reliable. He shows a level of calmness beyond his years. So similar to Virg. Again, right footer who can play on the left if he needs to. He contributes so many tackles. He's good in the air. Again, not insane, not Virgil level in the air, but I think he's decent in the air. But his ability to read the game combined with his physical attributes makes him incredible. But he is a back three player, which is a bit of a concern. And I'm also kind of the opinion that we're not going to really look for Van Dijk cover because I'm of the opinion that I think Leone and Jacquet could do that if we need them to. In terms of just being able to play on the left, Joe could play on the left. And ultimately, signing a player explicitly to be Van Dijk cover doesn't make sense. And you could tell from this video so far that I haven't suggested a lot of left footers, and there's a reason for that. I actually hadn't suggested any for center back, and it's because I don't think we need a left-sided center back to be a starter. Like people suggest Nico Schlotterbeck or Bastoni, but realistically, we're not moving Virgil to the right, which means that it makes no sense to sign a player like that. And then you could say I could look for a young left-footed center back, but there aren't any young left-footed center backs who really move me as somebody that we need to sign. So then let's look at a different profile. Maybe we look for someone who's an even better ball player to Jeremy Jacquet, because you can see that he uses people like James Hill, Senesi, who are very good on the ball. So maybe you get someone like Zeno DeBast, somebody who at Sporting is a great dribbler, we know. He's a great ball player. He's incredible at these line breaking passes. He's very similar to Senesi in this way. And if we're not going to have Verge central, I think you would struggle to find someone better than DeBast central, because if he needs to, if you have this Doué, Van Dijk, Bast back three, these are three elite ball players. DeBast can effectively operate as a midfielder if he needs to, because he's played as a six and as a center back. He's tall, he's decent in the air. Again, he completes a high number of passes, about 60 per game, with very high accuracy, and they're not all safe. There's a lot of progressive passes and line breaking ones. I could easily see him finding one of the wingers if he needs to with a line breaking pass. He's able to carry forward. He'd be great. I just think the only reason we won't go for somebody like DeBast is, again, he's in the Portuguese league. The step up might be too big. And I'm slowly kind of warming up to the idea of just playing Jacquet and Leone and Verge. So my ultimate thinking, where everything ended up settling on, is I think that we should just look for options in defense. Sign players who are able to play across the defense and occupy some roles, who are inexpensive or incredibly versatile. For incredibly versatile, it's Josh Achiampong. He's not really getting the game time at Chelsea. He might under Alonso, but I think they'd be open to sell. He's able to pretty much do everything that you want a defender to do to some capacity. He's able to play as this central center back. He could play on the left. He could even play as a left back if you needed him to in a different role. He could play as the right back for Doué. He can play as a six in a pinch and split the lines, or like split the center back, similar to how Lindelof does when he plays the six for Villa. Very versatile. He's homegrown. He's a good tackler. He's also a good passer and a good carrier. He's pretty much able to play any role that you want, similar to somebody like Gayla Doué. I'm always looking for players who can just play different roles, and Josh Etchie could definitely do that. The other option I'm going to put forward is Aurel Amenda. I've suggested him before. The reason I'm suggesting him now is he hasn't had a great season. He struggles a lot with staying fit, but I think he'd be very inexpensive. He's also an all-around defender, but he's tall. He's 6'6". He profiles very similarly to Virgil. He could pass in behind. He's great at intercepting the ball. He could be a channel defender. I like versatile options when we're looking to make up a squad and sort of build and get a lot of players who could play Iraola's system and is known to platform players and improve them. I could see Amenda being that player. He can play both of these positions, versatile. He allows you to sell somebody like Joe Gomez too. Achiampong, of course, does that more directly. Amenda, you now have about 5 center backs who can all play this role in the defense. Achiampong, of course, can also play right back. I think this is good for squad makeup and building a squad that's not going to burn out under Andoni Iraola's similar playing style to like Bielsa murder ball. And for that reason, I would still go for Aurel Amenda. I heard something like Celtic could have bought him for like 7 or 8 million in the winter transfer window. Eintracht were willing to sell. Again, I just think for that price point, it's a no-brainer to me. It seems like a clear market opportunity to get a young center back who could develop well. And I know we have other young center backs like Mortala and Dye and Dukwe, these types of players coming through at Akoya, but again, the more the merrier, in my opinion. So at left wing, a dream pick would be somebody like Morgan Rogers for me. I think if you sign somebody like Morgan Rogers, you're getting a level of robust ball carrying similar to Scalia. And of course, we do need a left winger. I think it's important to say. And Morgan Rogers, he could easily play as a left winger and also as 10 cover for Florian Wirtz. He would be able to link up with these three because I think ultimately you're going to try to get most of your goals from these three. He can attack the space in behind. He can carry well. We know he's able to shoot from distance and score goals. He was homegrown as well, so always great for the quota. Of course, there is the club trained and the association trained homegrown quotas and UEFA, which we should be thinking about, but he can at least be in that association one and allow us to sell people like Jeremy Frimpong or not, re-sign players like Freddie Woodman. Very useful option, but it's very obvious, I think, to everybody that they are going to demand so much money, Villa. I mean, they have the Champions League football. They have no reason to sell. They might build their team around him. So again, not a sensible transfer. Bradley Barcola, different. Again, we're looking for players who sort of fit this Semenyo role instead of double width, someone that is going to be overlapped by Milos Kerkez. Bradley Barcola is rapid. He has a lot of key passes that come as a result of cutting back the ball in the final third or having these quick passes that he's able to do because he builds so much space himself. He's sort of a Darwin Núñez level chance creator, except on the left. Rapid, he can get in behind. If you had somebody like Abdullahu or if it was Adam Wharton who can pass the ball in behind, get it to somebody like Barcola and then pass it to somebody like Isak would be incredible. Even if he shoots, you'll have Isak and Wirtz who can get the rebound from the goalkeeper. Barcola would be a dream, an absolute dream for this team. And he could become a relentless presser too. He has incredible athleticism. He already has decent defensive stats for a winger, but he could be even better. Of course, yeah, he might miss chances, but the amount that he's going to create through his pure pace and athleticism is outrageous. But PSG might renew. It might be difficult to sign him. He might be incredibly expensive. Again, these dream picks are still players I think we should go for if we have the money, but it's just whether or not it's justified, getting them without addressing other issues, because that might be the type of trade-off we have to make. So the other option is that I've heard is Abde, who is a left winger, who's Moroccan. He is able to play on both sides. He's very direct. He has good assist numbers this season. Very dynamic. I watched him for Osasuna. I've watched him live against Arsenal at SoFi in a preseason game, and he was incredible. He won a free kick. He's able to link up play well. Of course, I love having an African winger. It's very Liverpool now in my brain because of Mane and Salah. Incredible player. I love Abde. He could easily drift into wide areas, but my big issue with him is he's not really an inside forward, and I think you want to look for someone of the Semenyo profile. So we need an inside forward. That brings me to Mathias Ablin, who plays for Nantes. I believe Nantes have been relegated from the French league. Again, he's a very robust player. Ablin is able to occupy these center forward positions. He's able to carry well. He's able to get in behind. He's very fast. He's very direct. He is a pretty low touch player, which I like. Very similar to Kevin Schade in that way. So he doesn't necessarily take ball touches away from Florian Wirtz and Dom and these players who might be, more of the footballers of this team. He could be someone who gets on the end of crosses, is the outlet winger. But again, we're looking for somebody who's going to start on this left-hand side, and I don't really know if he's good enough to be a starter for a team like Liverpool, even though I love him. So we could explore Kevin Schade instead. Schade, similar to Ablin, is going to be able to play as this outlet winger. Of course, being German might be useful for someone like Florian Wirtz. He's also fast. He can play as a striker. Also low touch, heavily efficient. But Schade is not great on one-on-ones. If Kerkez is underlapping, he's going to struggle here. Abde, of course, would be better in this type of position, right? But he's not really that inside forward that we're probably looking for. And also a right footer who's constantly in these positions isn't ideal either for someone like Abde and even Schade. So I don't think it makes the most sense to go for someone like him, especially because he doesn't have top level one-on-one ability and probably doesn't make sense again as a starter. And we've been tracking Schade for so many years, ever since he was at Freiburg. So I don't think we're going to make a move now if we haven't before. Said El Mala, Brentford have actually gone for him. I thought he might be their Schade replacement. He's very similar, even though I think he's a better footballer. Probably can't play striker to the same level, but defensively great. He presses very well. He'd be very good in Iraola's system, but again, too young to be a starter. He doesn't make sense for a sensible transfer, even though I love him. Similar ilk is Mateus Fernandez Pardo. The benefit that you have out of someone like Pardo is that he can actually play on both sides, which, again, I'm a sucker for versatility. Fernandez Pardo can play here as the inside forward. He can go on the outside, good one on one ability, very direct. He can also play in Rio's position. Strikes the ball very well. He's very similar to Sun to me in comparison to these other guys, and I would love to sign him. And honestly, he would have been my sensible transfer. But I've heard that Lille want upwards of 70 million for him, and for me, he's had one season of serious production. It doesn't make sense to spend that level of money on that type of player. So we could look for someone with more experience who's young, like Antonio Nusa, who's able to be as an inside forward. He can carry very well, elite success rate. He's a two-way winger. He can defend well. He strikes the ball so well. He can play as a second striker too. Like he could play in the 10 role where he's Verts is going to play as a second striker, sometimes as a link-up player. He could do it. But again, I think Nusa is also going to be really expensive. Negotiating with Leipzig, we already want to do it for Jan Diamande. Does it make sense to also try to get Nusa? Would they sell both wingers? Not sensible to me. So, what if we go for double width instead? We look for someone who can replicate Tavernier on the left instead of an inside forward. Now, we could say Abde works here, but maybe we want a left footer to go on the left and a right footer to go on the right. With this frame, you could then maybe flip the wingers at times. Like sometimes they'd both be inside and you put the left footer on the right and the right footer on the left. But you can also have it like this with true double width. The obvious pick here is another Hoffenheim player, Bazumana Torre, who has played as a left winger and as a left wing back this season. He's also played as a right winger this season. So immediately he fits the role perfectly as to what I want. He's able to play. He can come inside at times, but he can also have this burst to go on the left and occupy space and cross the ball in. He can play on the right if we need him to. But one season of production for a team in the Bundesliga where pace abuse is sort of inflates a lot of numbers. He doesn't have that level of dribbling ability that maybe justifies it like a Jan Diamande. So I don't think Edwards would go for him, which is my sensible transfer is Yankuba Minte, because not a lot of hype for Minte right now. I think you could get him for about 60 to 70 million, and I think he actually justifies that. I think he's an incredible presser. He would win so many balls further forward. He's the most athletic player we've talked about so far in terms of wingers. He's proven. He's able to play on the left and the right, so he fits that perfectly. He Again, African winger from the Gambia. I love that. Incredible. He is so difficult to play against. When we play him, he's always terrifying. He's underrated as a passer. He can dribble. I think if you're looking for a player that you're going to spend money on who isn't, going to be upwards of 100 million like Barcola and Rogers, Minte makes the most sense for the left-hand side. So what this is going to leave us with now is the right wing. Again, we need a solid replacement, as in just a player who's going to play on the right. But again, I think we're going to look to get most of our goals from Flo and Isak, and a couple from the wingers and maybe Dom. So we need players that platform. Most obvious pick is Jan Diamande. We've been linked with him for the entirety of the past couple of weeks, couple of months. He's a Liverpool fan, allegedly, and a PSG fan. He's ball dominant, great progressive numbers. He's an insane dribbler. The Bundesliga statistics that you see are outrageous. The level of passing and dribbling and volume of output and XG and XA created. He presses incredibly well. He would be aggressive like Yankuba Minte, except on the right here. And again, could play both sides. His level of intelligence and strength and ability for a player of his age is incredible. His story is incredible, coming through the ranks in the USL, going to Leganes, and now going to RB Leipzig. He's on an upward trajectory. He looks incredible for the Ivory Coast every time you watch him. But as much as I love Jan Diamande, is it sensible? They want 100 million. We're also in a race with PSG. I wonder if going for somebody like Jan is going to be too expensive. If we are going to go for dream picks elsewhere, like Adam Morton or Bradley Barcola, is it still going to be affordable? Are we going to abandon net spend again? I struggle to see it sometimes. I think he might end up at PSG. So that means maybe we go for somebody like Fernandez Pardo on the right? We've talked about him before. He can play on that side. But again, one season of production, and Lille also want a lot of money, upwards of 70 million. So is there somebody who maybe will be a little bit cheaper, who doesn't necessarily block the pathway of an Abde or a Rio, the same way that Minte doesn't block the pathway of an Abbe or a Rio? And I leaked it a little bit because I said Abde instead of Abby. I think it is Abde on the right. Because again, he's someone who can play both sides. And crucially, he's a great passer. He can cross the ball in very well. He's an elite presser. Again, African. This time, we instead of a Senegalese player and an Egyptian, we have a Gambian and a Moroccan. I still think that's very cool. He's again a Barcelona Academy graduate. He's a great passer of the ball. He just got injured during the World Cup, which means I don't think he has the chance to have a massive inflation in his value. And again, I think he'd be attainable for about 50 mil. And I think for that, it makes it a sensible pick. And again, we don't have to go for sensible picks. It's good to go for some dream signings, but my goal here was to find sensible picks, which means in total, the players that I think we should sign are Josh Achiampong, Aurel Amenda, Lamine Kamara, Leon Abdallahu, Abde, and Minte. And of course, we might need even more players depending on who leaves. But I do want to incorporate young players like Kieran Morrison, like Rio and Gamoa, like Trey and Yoni into the squad. I think it'd be useful, especially with the level of development that Iraola gets. I think he could develop all of these players too. None of them are established names, but you could see Abde and Minte's volume go up under someone like Iraola. You could see Amenda actually develop this sort of defensive stability the same way that he's improved people like Hill. You could see him improve Abdallahu the same way he's improved Alex Scott. And Lamine Kamara would just be a useful player for him to have. Somebody who he could sign, who could play similarly to Alex Scott, who could operate in multiple roles and help facilitate a lot of our other players. And I forgot, Gayla Due, versatile right back, could do the Jimenez role. Somebody, again, who can come right in, who could be developed into an even better player, but also immediately fulfill whatever role the right back needs to. And if he wants to evolve his build-up play and his strategy, it would be really easy to do with someone like Gayla Due. So these are the 7 transfers that I think we should make, right? That I think would be sensible. And of course, they could be replaced for a dream pick, but I think these probably make the most sense. But that is it for me in this video. Very long video I wanted to make sure I did this right. If you like the video, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Twitter and Substack at The Counterpress. Eventually, I'll be making articles for that. A bit delayed. I've been sick and things have been happening. I've been moving, so hopefully we have some more videos coming out for you guys soon. And as always, thanks for watching.